one of those days. Winter with what, 40 millimeters of rain in one day. That's what you call Canadian winter. So today we're hopping into this guy. Whoa, sorry, dirty. Better, I guess, yeah. So I'm heading over to Elmer. I'm gonna be meeting up with Mark and going to his dad's place because he is the one that has a lift. So I'm renting his garage for the day, and we're gonna be changing the lower control arm on the right, lower control arm on the left, with the bolts, and hopefully with the inner and outer tie rod on these 2009 Range Rover Sport. So I'll head on the road and I'll show you guys all of the parts that we have once we get in the garage. Oh, look, it's Mark. So we're here. We will get the car into the garage, get it on a lift, get the then we're gonna get the laptop, open up the software, plug it into the OBD2. We will probably de-inflate the full suspension through the software, but I'll get into the details in a bit. We'll focus on getting it into the garage, and then I'll get back to you guys. Getting all the lifts set up so that we can lift it up. We have the little pucks, and hopefully it's gonna go up. Right now we have it in off-road mode so that it gives the lift a hand to jack it up, because it still weighs a lot, and
hippopotamus.
It's a hippo, so yeah. So we're gonna hopefully be able to lift it up, and
you're all placed on your side?
I think so.
Just lift it up until it makes contact. Make sure that we're in a good spot.
Yeah, it seems, I think you can maybe check my side just to double check, but I think that I'm good.
What's happening?
Suspension.
Why is it lowering?
I think it does it by default.
Oh yeah, after a certain amount of time it just, okay. I'm glad we started lifting.
There we go. As I said to Mark, let's record and show people what we're up to. So the Range Rover is up in the air. We have it here on the lift, so that's a good start. It is holding this beast, so if it doesn't fall, we should be good. Should, right, Mark?
Yeah, I like to think so.
So right now what we're going to do is we will remove the wheels to get access to the lower control arms. As you guys can see, they are completely rusted. This is a Canadian car that spends its time in the salt and crap of Canada. So anyways, we'll be removing that. We do have here, as you guys can see, some Range Rover OEM bolts. This was $107 for 4 bolts, 4 washers, and 4 nuts. They're expensive because they are alignment bolts, so they have angles to align to do your lower control arm alignment. So we have that. We have ordered the left and the right lower control arms. Each of them do come with the side bushings here, and also you remove that. There you go, this bushing as well. So hopefully that's what is wrong with the car, and that's what's making the noise.
Short of that, what would be left?
What's that?
Short of that, what else could knock?
Maybe suspension. I don't know if since it's hydraulic, I don't know if something that can knock within that suspension on the inside.
For your bags?
Yeah.
Not impossible.
So
upper control arm?
So yeah, exactly. That was my next step. Is that either then the bag or the upper control arm? But you'll see that once we remove the wheel, we can easily move with the lower control arm. You can see that the back bushings are definitely like super loose. Okay. So I'm assuming that's what's making
it's
the
soft.
It's very soft, yeah. So we have that. Then we have the inner and outer tie rod that I did order last summer because I thought this is what was causing the knock. It was not. But since they're easy to change, if ever we do have the time, they're a Moog, they're good quality, so we might actually change them up, but that's going to be only at the end of the day. Secondary, correct. So first job will be, let's do that. We will remove the wheels, then I'll pull the laptop. We're going to log into the Jaguar Range Rover software, and we will ask it to deflate the system so that we don't have any difficulty removing the strut from the lower control arm.
My question is that deflating the bag while it's up in the air might be a trick, so we might be obligated to put like some a jack underneath or something like that to force the wheel up.
That's true.
Yeah, I just don't know. It's not, like I said, it's not vacuuming the air out, it's just opening a release valve.
Yeah.
So we'll see. If it was like a whole strut and spring assembly, it'd be a completely different story.
Well, for the people that don't have the software, because the software can be quite pricey, right? Like I think that Range Rover and Land Rover, they charge probably like 5 or 10 grand for the gadget and the software. So people that are going to do that at home, they're probably not going to have the software. And what I heard that you can actually do is that you should be able to attach a ratchet strap under the strut.
Hey,
and to the top, and you ratchet strap the actual strut so that it kind of pulls up.
Yeah.
And the main purpose, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the main purpose why you do that is that so that your strut can fit back into your lower control arm. To remove it, it's perfectly fine because you're going to tap it out. It's mainly when you want to put it back in.
It's like fighting with a control arm on regular suspension. It's the same thing, right? Because it's extended all the way out.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true.
So
correct.
this should technically be easier.
Yeah.
If we can get the bags to deflate, then we're good.
So
cool.
Let's get to that. We'll remove the wheel and we'll show you guys what the Land Rover software looks like. So while Mark is undoing the other side, removing the wheel, I'll grab the VX Diag and I will go inside the car, and the OBD2 port is right underneath here. I will plug it in, connect it to the laptop, and on the laptop I have software to deflate the bag, so let's hope that it connects. So we have the software that is currently loading. I just turned on the ignition in the car so that it can connect, and it should detect my car in a bit, and then I'll be able to access some of the controls on the module. I mean, it's too late. It's never too late. It's better be late than...
You're a little advanced in there.
Yeah, we're sorry, folks. So Mark and I were trying to figure out the software because it's been a while, and then we needed to do some updates, and we were afraid that we lost some of the functions, but we ended up finding the proper location in the software. So the software, I'm not sure if you can see, I guess, yeah, we can see. So we have the Land Rover, Jaguar, and Range Rover system. So we are in here right now. We have selected within that system to deflate the air suspension. So we selected to only deflate the suspension. You have the option to deflate the entire system with the reservoir, or only the suspension. So since we're not touching any of the lines, we'll just deflate the suspension. So now it's asking us to do a few steps just to make sure that the car is on and has hazards on and things like that for safety reasons, and then we do that. So there we go.
Heard the click, the valves are open.
So now the valves are opening.
Not sure we get much out of it.
So it's just deflating as it is right now. Hopefully,
Hey,
is it?
Actually, yeah, you can see it.
Oh yeah,
retracting.
it's going in.
I don't know if we should put a strap on it and just to help it out.
It's a bit of a vacuum, right? So you were asking if ever it has a vacuum or not. Probably not a vacuum. It's probably just reverse pressure that it's creating in the system from the other shocks.
Or it just had, well, either that or it had pressure built up in it. Anyway,
And now it's just,
releasing.
yeah.
It's going to get to zero and stop, but that doesn't mean that it's fully retracted.
So what we're going to do is we will give that a shot. It still has like over halfway to go because it's doing all of the shocks.
Oh, and prerequisite also, right? Gotta have
Oh
a charger
yeah,
on the battery to
that's
do
true.
anything.
Mark just reminded me that the software is not going to allow you to do any of these advanced functions unless you have it on an approved charger. The system is afraid that the battery is going to die, and while you're running a command, it's going to corrupt the full system. So to prevent that, it's asking you to put it on the charger so that you have more than, if I recall properly, 11.5 or maybe 12.5 volts. I can't remember exactly, but anyways, we're in the process of doing that. We will give it another few minutes to deflate the system, and once the system is fully deflated, at that point we're going to start hopefully removing some of the parts and hammering out some of the seized bolts. So we're going to let you guys know what the next step is, but I think that we're making good progress. So Mark just reminded me of something that is going to be very important for all of you guys to do before you undo any of the bolts, and this is to prevent you having issues driving the car to the alignment shop, because regardless of what you do, unless you're a pro, you will probably need an alignment. It's highly recommended after this, because there are a lot of alignment points on these cars that you can play with. So what we did is Mark's going to show you guys the bolts.
So both bolts, if you look down here, the forward and back bolts here, or front and back bolts, those bolts adjust the toe in and toe out of the wheel. So you don't want to mess with those or bring them too far from plumb, or else you're going to have issues actually driving it. It's going to feel like it wants to wobble. It's going to be hard to keep it straight. And so those two bolts, if you look here, they are marked all the way around, and since those are also the original bolts there, so what we'll do is we'll mark where or the position of each bolt at the front and at the back, either by marking the back and the front marks to make sure that we line them up when we reinstall this or install this bolt. That way you're as close as possible to straight, and it's going to be drivable. You're not chewing through tires. Not so bad right now because it's the winter and it's with the snow, it makes it a little more slippery. Had you done this in the summer, if you don't do this right, you can chew your tires completely from the time you leave your garage and go to the shop for the alignment. So that's a really really important step to replacing these bolts. Not every vehicle has those bolts. Some will just have the one.
This one seems to have the two
both.
plus some top like everywhere.
That's
right?
There's one at the front and one at the back on each side. So we want to make sure we mark them on the actual bracket that holds the control arm, so that we can reinstall this and be as close as possible to the position of the previous bolts.
So ultimately we do a tag on this while it's still on the car, and then we make sure that we do a tag on the frame, so that when we cut the old one or remove the old one, the new one that goes in, we can just kind of pivot it to align with the tag on the frame, right?
That's right. So if these bolts that are on there are the same as these ones, I would suggest marking the very first notch and the very last notch.
Right.
That way we know that we're exactly straight and in position when we put them on. Technically, that should be the case.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's give that a shot.
Yep.
So we are at the point of
No return.
no return, but we haven't sweared. We're quite happy actually with the progress. So we have one stud that was for this side of the lower control arm. We have the bolt for the lower ball joint here that was super easy to remove. Everything was greased properly in the past. Now we are removing this side. Mark's going underneath because it's a bit difficult. It's easy enough, but it's more difficult than the other ones to access because there's the exhaust that's in the way. So we're making really, really good progress. Once this side is removed, as you guys can see, this one's already pushed out. We don't need to cut it, so we're very, very happy with that. This side is removed. We don't need to cut it. So once it is done, we just push it down and put the new one on, and it's gonna be hopefully the end of it. But
Ooh,
I'll keep you guys.
We had a surprise.
What's the surprise?
The bolt. The bolt on the other side. So see how this is kind of off center? It's kind of like a washer that's attached to this this bolt. On the other side, there is a plate that is keyed on to the actual bolt to adjust it.
So like this.
Detail.
Keyed right here, keyed right there, because like Mark is saying, this side is also technically adjustable, but I think that it adjusts based on the other side, so we're good. I don't think that there are two adjustments per side for the lower control arm.
It's one adjustment per. It's just that.
But both
plate,
spin.
Yeah, but that's because that plate on the other side is keyed onto that bolt.
Right.
So there's only one way that plate can go onto the bolt.
Luckily,
thankfully. Good
Range
news.
Rover did something right.
He did something. Give him that.
So our first issue is common issue. There you go. Oh, that wasn't part of the problem. So the one of the alignment bolt here is completely seized inside the bushing. So we try to PB blast it, and now we're trying to smack it with a hammer, try to tap it out. We're trying to pry bar it. We're trying to punch it, do a whole bunch of things because this bolt should be moving on the inside of that, but it's technically not because it's completely rusted. So we just need to slide it out. Once we have it once we have it out, it's going to be the same like this one. And we should be able to pull the lower control arm out.
Yeah.
But there are a few options. Hopefully a PB blaster is going to help with the rust. We're going to be able to tap it out and remove it. If not, we might try to, I don't know.
At the very worst case scenario, I think we can cut off the head of this bolt here.
Yeah.
And if we can do that, then we can probably tap it through. The thing is that inside those bushings, there's a metal sleeve.
Yeah.
And that's where usually that bolt will rust. So we got lucky at the front here, but then again, that's not getting the most of the water at the front here. It's going to be whatever's behind the tire. So naturally, this side here is going to have a little bit more rust accumulation. So
I guess at the love
yeah.
juice, but at the worst case, like we can also grab a saw and just cut inside of this. Because we don't care about the bolt, we have one, and we don't care about the lower control arm because we have the one. We don't care about the bushing, so we do have enough space to go in and to actually grind it off. So that is the last thing that we would be able to do, but we'll try to see with the PB blaster and a few love taps to see if it's going to help.
Yeah, it's not, you can't really, it's hard to heat. Normally you want to heat the part that is on the outside of whatever you're trying to remove. Since we can't really heat the bolt because it's on the inside, we don't want to expand it. We want to expand the sleeve inside the bushing, and if you try to heat that, then you're burning rubber. Overall, not a pretty situation, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to eventually get it out without having to cut anything.
Confidence. I like it. So Mark, I think that we learned that our method might not work. And the reason why, well, my method that I thought that it was going to be easier. Not that it was complicated, made it a bit.
So here's the thing: with some control arms, you're going to have the ball joint that pushes in from the bottom of the knuckle, and then you put the crown nut on top. This is the other way around. So this ball joint actually is downwards, so you put it through the knuckle, and then you put the nut underneath. Now that poses a complication on this vehicle because you don't have enough room to pull out the bottom of the control arm, which sits here. So it lifts up, hits the axle, and then won't go anywhere. So what we had to do, and also we're trying to find solutions for that back bushing, trying to kind of work it, move it around some to try and break whatever rust is in there. So what we had to do is remove the axle nut at the back here. So we just took the axle nuts out
with a holy shit bar.
With a holy shit bar, needed all of this right here.
Yeah, so about a 4 feet bar. Okay.
Yeah, this was probably
5.
torqued to PFT.
Yeah.
Pretty freaking tight. And then we could push out, remove the whole knuckle forward. We didn't even have to remove the tie rod that stayed attached. So this entire knuckle swung up and to the front so that we could push the axle out. So that worked pretty well. We were then able to move up the ball joint out of its knuckle and swung down. So now, with that said, with the control arm all the way down, you can see right here that yeah, this is completely shot, falling apart, rusted through. But such is the life in Canada.
Well, what is this? This is probably original, so this is what it's at 10 years old, 11 years old now.
Yeah,
so
yeah. So the idea of actually doing this was to swing the control arm down and out of the way, so it would give us more access to that bolt here. So we'd like to, because it's not actually turning at all, and there was really no way to put proper pressure on it. Now that it's in this position, we'll be able to put an actual breaker bar across this way and try to move it freely. Either way, clockwise, counterclockwise, doesn't matter. There's no nut on the other side of that anymore. So it should turn either way, but it's just to kind of break it free of that sleeve inside the bushing, hopefully. seeing the condition of it, it may spin with that sleeve, and then we'll evaluate cutting situations, because I think that's what it'll come down to.
So technically progress being made, but more to be done. I think that once we manage to remove this, the rest of it is completely a piece of cake. So,
but still, we would have had to remove this.
Which we were not I was not expecting that as well. I thought that it would just be. I thought that there would be enough room, because when you look at it without trying, it seems like it will come out and there's going to be just 1 centimeter to allow you to pull it out, but was just
threads where you're just barely seeing the threads come through on the other side.
So you're missing like almost like half an inch of space, and there's no way around it, because like you were saying, the metal part of the axle is in the way.
So the hub at the end here. So in hindsight, now we know if anyone's going to be doing this while the vehicle is still on the ground, preferably if the nut is accessible at all. In your case, it wasn't. You would have to remove the center cap on the wheels and whatnot. It's easier to take off an axle nut while the vehicle is on the ground, because now we needed to put pressure on this and the wheels were turning, so Mike had to step on the brake or push on the brake while it was up in the air, while I had the big ratchet set, the axle ratchet set, and the holy crap bar on there to slack it. Didn't take all that much. I've seen definitely worse that I've had to heat to remove, but then you start messing with the actual wheel bearing and whatnot. That's overall bad news.
I guess considering that the car is over 10 years old, it's actually good. Quite good. Yeah. So
yeah, for sure.
So keep it up, I guess.
So we'll try and move that, or articulate that back bushing.
Try to play
we'll
with
take out this nut or this bolt here, the back, so
now
that way
we can
actually manipulate and pivot and move it and twist it and see if we can break off some of that rust. Give it some more PB Blaster or whatever anti-seize that we can in there, and see what we can do. See if we can get out that bolt. But otherwise, that's where, like every other job, you're one rusty bolt away from a 10-hour ordeal kind of thing.
That's true.
So I don't think it'll be that long. We'll be able to cut it out. I see a lot of light here between the actual mount and the bushing there, so we can put a sawzall or a cutting blade on a grinder or something like that. Like I did bring the acetylene torch, but again, we're dealing with fire.
Yeah, I know.
And rubber bushing,
gas and grease and stuff, and
yeah. Overall, not the best situation. We'll get to it.
Cool.
No worries.
Let's get to it.
Yep.
So as I was telling Mark, it's going to be a long video, but with lots of info, because we've made some progress. So we'll say that 98% of the lower control arm is out. You'll notice that it's missing part of it because we had to grind it off to access the sleeve and the bolt, because the bolt is completely rusted on the inside. So now our next step will be to heat it up with the torch.
Yep. Like
see if we can.
We can heat up the outside of whatever's holding it, which is the sleeve. Then it should expand some and hopefully be able to break loose the bolt. I know some will say, why bother? You can just cut it, but then you end up with two pieces that you have to fight with for both to get the bolt out of both sides. So
that was my option.
That was your option, yeah. If at all possible, I'd like to heat that sleeve and pull the bolt out all in one shot. Just be easier that way, I think.
Let's give it a shot.
Yep. See? The fresh smell of burnt rubber in the morning. It's great.
Progress update. We managed to get everything off. We're lucky enough that we took the grinder, put it through that bolt. There it is. Cracked open. The other side is right there. And this is what we have left. So we're all good. Didn't do any damage. We didn't grind the frame or anything like that. So, I think that we did quite well. Next step is we'll simply clean up all of the inside because there's crap. We'll grease it all up. We'll grease up everything with some copper grease. And then we will put the control arm back in and put the bolts back in. We're probably going to put the bolts back in, not tighten them. And once everything is in place, then slowly we'll start tightening one bolt at a time. So I think that's good progress.
Yeah.
Right, Mark?
Sure.
We never show what we're doing. We just talk about it. So let's show what we're doing. But we're kind of we're good. Like, you know, tightening the axle.
Making
Because
sure
we have
it's
to remove it.
out.
New bolt, new lower control arm. Bolt has been greased up here.
There was a bit of manhandling
this is
involved.
here. Yeah, there was a bit of. Wow. Sorry. There was a bit of handling to get everything to settle in, but with 2 pair of hands, it actually worked out quite well. We slid from underneath this and that kind of part of the control arm together, put the bolts in, the studs, then the bolts in. We just hand tighten them. Then
It's not
we
adjusted yet. It's
not adjusted.
We didn't set it to the marks yet.
Not set to the marks, but the purpose of doing that is that the rest of the bolts, like the ball joint here that is underneath, the suspension that goes with this bolt, and the axle nut right there, we just wanted to tighten them like slowly, one at a time, so that we don't run into any issues that the alignment is too tight on one side and it's preventing us to tighten something else. So anyways, we're doing great progress, so let's tighten the bolts one by one.
I put that washer back in the back here.
Yep.
I think so.
Is it?
I think so.
Yeah, so there's a washer on each side, so we have to make sure that from the side where you don't see the angle adjustment, you need to make sure that you have the washer there. But yeah. So let's tighten the suspension, let's tighten the lower ball joint, and then let's do the, once all of that is tight, we need to do the outside first. Once the outside is tight, because none of it is actually adjustable, then the inside is what we're going to finish with.
Makes sense.
And one of the tricks that we actually just provided a few minutes ago is that you need to make sure that you torque down the adjustable bolts, the nuts, once the car is on the ground, torque them to spec. We don't know what the torque spec is yet, but we're going to check it up online and let you guys know once the truck is back on the ground. But anyways, we still have the other side to do after this.
Yeah,
so
the trick is going to be to put it on ramps. So when we lower the truck, once everything is put back together, we're going to tighten them, kind of still hand tight where we like them with the adjustment. We'll put it down onto ramps, lower the lift, and then we'll go underneath and torque them down correctly, because they are supposed to be under tension before you put them
fully to torque
the nuts. Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, let's hope that the other side's not going to be as difficult, but I feel like grinding's going to be involved again. But now that we know what to do, how long did it took us, like, for one side to figure everything out? What time is it?
It's like 1 o'clock.
It's 1 o'clock, so it took us probably 3 hours to get set up. 2 hours, so let's say 2 hours of work.
Yeah, it's just because we kept stopping, reevaluating, and then I messed around with that stupid torch for 20 minutes or so, trying to figure that out. So all in all, it should
an hour and a half.
Even with the complications, should have been like an hour and a half. There will be no such waste of time on the other side.
Now that we know,
That's right. Now we know. We'll take the bolts out as best we can. Those that don't cooperate are getting cut.
So I guess that hope for you guys that this is going to help you out once you do it yourself, because we ran into a few complications, so you know what to buy. Make sure that before you get into it you have spare bolts. Before you get into it, make sure that you have a grinder and all of that. Maybe before we end the video, once we take the car out for a spin, we can maybe, Mark and I, do a little bit of a checklist for you guys to give you a hand. So we'll be right back. I thought it would be time to do an update since we managed to cut the second lower control arm. Luckily, not luckily, so the side that we thought was going to be easier was the most difficult side, and the difficult side was the most easiest side. The reason why is because on the driver's side we only had one of the bolts that was completely seized, while on the passenger side we had both bolts that were completely seized. So we went through probably 10 cutting wheels in order to get the lower control arm out. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like. So now it's all greased up and everything. So as you guys can see, lower control arm remove, and ball joint here that has been right there that has been removed as well from the suspension. So we're ultimately at the last step right now on the passenger side, which is just to take the lower control arm and remove this, because this is just ball joint. I'll put this on here because we'll need it. And we have these guys, which are the brand new studs with the alignment. We have our notches right here, notches right there. And again, this is not so that you can drive the car like that forever. It's just so that you can drive it around a bit and bring it to the alignment shop without having, you know, tire wear and instability on the highway and things like that. So that's where we're at. We'll grab the lower control arm. As I mentioned earlier, we're gonna slide it from down to up into each groove. We're gonna slide the studs through it. Then we're gonna put the lower ball joint, tighten the what do you call this? The axle nut. Then once all of that is done, the car's gonna go on the ground. We will inflate the suspension through the software, and we will then be able to do the full torquing of all of the bolts.
You don't want to lower it onto ramps first?
Yeah, we can lower it on. We need to lower it on the ground because it needs to recalibrate the air suspension, and when it's calibrating, it needs to be leveled. So, I guess we'll put it on the ground and hope for the best. So, I'll show you guys once this side is all assembled, and I guess that at this point nothing can go wrong. That's what we always say.
Famous last words.
Yeah. So we're done. The wheels are on. Well, we're not done, but we're very, very done. So the other wheel is on. It's not torqued, and none of the bolts underneath are actually torqued. So what we're going to do is we're going to start dropping the car, and the suspension is deflated. So I don't know if it's going to be too low for the lift, but we're going to go slowly because we need to calibrate the suspension now that we have deflated it completely. Once it's on the ground and the suspension is fully inflated again, what we're going to do is we will, I guess, put it to normal ride height, and then put it on ramps and tighten the bolts underneath, like the calibration, what do you call them, the adjustable bolts, to spec that we're actually going to have to research right now and see what it requires. So we're almost there. Let's do this. Let's drop it.
It's a random
bolt. Yeah, it's garbage.
Part of the garbage pile.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's drop her.
Down it goes. Stopping it there.
Yep. So now it's still on.
It's still on the jack.
Yeah, it's still on the jack.
Leave it there if you want.
Leave it there?
You can leave it there. You can reinflate the system.
Okay. Because
without it being all the way down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. So let's put the car on. There we go. I don't know if it's connected to the car. And now we said control suspension, compressor, ride height,
Put it down.
inflate.
Right now you're at the inflate, yeah.
Yeah, so let's inflate. Let's run. Routine, normal operation. Enable the suspension to be inflated. Be aware suspension height will change during just routine. Start engine. Can you maybe crack open the garage door?
No, I can open it all the way though.
Okay, start her up. Okay, start the engine. Yes. Suspension successfully inflated. I don't think so. It said suspension successfully inflated. I don't think so. So So right now we are on, let's drop the height, there you go. Yeah, I was on off-road, so now it's coming up. Let's see if that does the trick. Well, give me a second. Okay, position. We're on diagnostic. Okay. Just want to see once again suspension inflation. So run. We'll do it once again just to be sure. It's routine. Yes. Start the engine. It is. Yes. Doesn't matter though. It's just for safety.
Really?
Yeah. Press the suspension. Press the suspension rise switch once. Okay. So we will do this suspension once.
Coming up.
Coming up.
The back was never really deflated.
That looks. What's that?
The back was never really deflated.
I don't know.
Or not much, if anything.
So the suspension will now raise to normal operating height. This could take up to 3 minutes. The engine must remain. Close the door. Suspension. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Cluster message will display the status of the routine once suspension has reinflated on the correct suspension height. Up arrow has extinguished. The routine is completed. Please stick when. So it's not flashing.
It's on.
It's not flashing. It's on. So that's good, I guess.
Extinguished means turned off. The up arrow should turn off.
Oh, the up arrow? Yeah, it's not on. It's off.
It's off?
Yeah, it is off. It's just I see that the suspension is raised.
Okay.
So tick when suspension is reinflated. Successfully reinflated. Set the hazard switch off, and we are technically good. So we can shut it off now. Oh yes. So now what we can do is, yeah, we can actually drop it and see if it stays up. So go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, drop the lift.
Yeah, drop the lift.
Sorry.
So lift is no longer there. Good. So we can remove the remove all of the pads and try to drop it completely.
Oh, you mean a suspension?
Now it's inflated to off-road. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to bring it down to proper ride height.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure it's good.
And it's leveled.
Yeah.
Let's grab. I'll go on the other side. Okay. We have this guy. Let's do this. We have this guy. Let's do that. This is trash. Okay. Guess we're good to try to drop it.
Yes.
So now we will put it to normal suspension, normal height, and like this. Close the door. It's dropping. Good.
Nice.
Seem to be quite leveled everywhere. Yeah, seems to be fine. Perfect. So I'll shut off the engine. We'll do a few things and we'll be right back. So we're in a truck, closing the door, and let's take it for a spin to see if it feels better.
How the fuck does it feel better? You just moved 10 feet?
No, I said we're gonna take it off for a spin to see if it feels better.
Oh, yes, yes.
Need to,
Watch out.
steering wheel's all crooked.
Is it a lot? Yeah. It didn't look like it'd be very straight, but
Didn't look like it's going to be very straight.
no.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's
A little bit off.
It's just
Just a hair.
ah,
It's not bad.
it's not too bad. Trying to see if I can hear some noise.
Oh hell, you want to take a left then?
Left?
Yeah. I'll take you to a rough street. Shit's moving in the back.
I don't know.
Sounds solid so far. It doesn't feel like it wants to pull.
It's not pulling at all.
That's not bad.
Like if I
Yeah.
pull that way, if I pull that way, it's holding.
Good.
Right? Right? Not debating it. What are we? We're about 3 hours or 4 hours after the last video because we were done with the lower control arms, and then as you guys saw, we took it out for a spin, and I was still hearing some knocking. And while the lower control arms were shot, and that was the purpose of this video, the knocking was still present, and we realized that it was probably the inner and outer. What's that? And or tie rods. So what we did is, since I already had them, I brought them and we changed them at the same time, which caused us headaches because there was more things that were seized. But we got it done, and I think that the little knock, the little loose that I felt in the wheel is, I think, well, one of the looses is definitely gone. We don't necessarily know if it's if that's gonna fix the actual problem that we were trying to fix, the little knock. However, we changed all of that, so I have new inner, outer tie rod, new lower control arms, new bolts, like just all of it is brand new, so that's kind of good. And now Mark, what he's doing is that he's just doing
perfectionist.
yeah. So the front wheels are a bit towed out because when we changed the inner and outer tie rod, we had to redo the the alignment. So we're trying to make it as perfect as possible before I bring it over to a shop to do like a professional alignment. We just don't want me to bring this on the highway or something like that and be towed out. We prefer to have them towed in. So that's what we're doing. We're just going to be shortening the
Especially with the weather we're having.
yeah, especially with the freezing rain that we're having right now. So we will tow them it by maybe, I don't know, 2 turns or something like that. 3 turns. Yeah. And then we'll bring it out for a spin and see if the knocking is gone. Let's see what happens. There we go. So we are done. The car's outside. We are cleaning up the garage as it's snowing / raining / starting to hail. We did all we could, and I think that the results are quite good. Took it out for a spin, and the alignment is actually fantastic. The steering wheel is straight. I went up to 70 kilometers an hour, so we'll see on the highway, but I don't think that it's going to change too much.
I'm getting pretty good at that.
Yeah, well, it's quite impressive, to be honest. So Mark did it, with the stick and almost just a broom and a ratchet strap now.
Yeah, I just need a long stick to put against the front wheel.
Yeah.
And you can tell right away if you're towing in or towing out. There's other hillbilly ways of doing it. I'll call it hillbilly ways. I've used 2 jack stands and string from a weed whacker, just tied together, going from the back to the front of the vehicle, so that the back is normally straight, especially on what would be like a rear-wheel drive truck or something like that. And then you can tell right away, touches both the back and the front of the rear tire, and it would touch it should be touching just the back of the front tire. If it's touching the front, then you're towed out and you're going to be out of alignment. And normally I would do that while strapping down with one of these, the steering wheel, to make sure that it's perfectly
Doesn't
plumb.
move, yeah.
So this one being done just
With the
on a whim like that is
quite good.
Not bad at all.
yeah. So that's done. We found a little knocking sound, and the knocking sound is one of the end links that attaches from the sway bar up to the upper control arm. I verified, and a very, very, very good quality one is probably about 40 Canadian dollars shipped to my door. So I'll be getting that hopefully next week. And I think that just by removing the wheel in a driveway without needing a lift, anything like that, should be able to get that done within, you know, maybe half an hour to an hour, hopefully. That's what we always say. So anyways, I hope that the video was
Informative.
hope it was informative.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
pros by any means.
No, but
We
you know, at
just
the very
got
least,
stuff done.
we showed
We showed what not to do.
we showed what not to do, slightly what we did, what worked for us,
Take
and
7 hours
hey.
and get this dirty.
yeah, exactly. But it's on the ground, it's moving, it's so much more solid than it was. So yeah, hope it helped. And yeah, if you guys have any comments or questions, let us know. Make sure to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you hated the video, and don't forget to subscribe. We like subscribers. Anyways, until next time, thank you very much for watching, folks, and we're done. Right, Mark?
Brew time, man.
Goodbye.